You're watching the New Stack Makers, a podcast for people who develop, deploy, and manage at-scale software. For more information and articles about at-scale technologies, please visit thenewstack.io. Now enjoy the show.
IBM helps organizations cut through IT operations complexity with an automation strategy that seamlessly connects applications and systems with AI-powered, API-driven automation, delivering dynamic, scalable, and intelligent system integrations through unified experience.
Hi, it's B. Cameron Gain at KubeCon CloudNativeCon in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm here today with Yackenovich at KubeCon, and he's here to discuss observability, and in particular, the aspects of what kind of person these days or user can take advantage of observability and what kind of observability and what kind of problems are reoccurring now and challenges and how to meet those challenges. It's a very broad topic, but I see observability in a state of change right now because it just must get easier and less expensive. So thank you very much for joining us, Jacob.
Thank you, Bruce, for the time today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you. And what would you say now is the state of observability?
That's a great question. The state of observability, I wish there was a standard answer, but what we are seeing on a constant basis, to your earlier point, is that answer changes by about 2% every week, where
right.
You thought you had a good understanding of that definition and the set of use cases that the industry expects from observability tools to be able to perform, and a new technology is announced or a new release like we've seen at KubeCon this week with the most recent release of Kubernetes being able to now handle AI workloads that much more effectively and efficiently is redefining then what do you do in production and then how do you observe the circumstances that you need to see to answer why systems are behaving the way that they're behaving as these new technologies, new principles, new cultures and processes get added into the mix of operations. It continuously changes that definition of what is expected for observability tools these days.
Well, what if we get AI out of the way right now? Like for observing these workloads in Kubernetes, AI workloads, how might that happen?
What we see are two primary approaches that our industry and our customers are using when they're adding in large language models or artificial intelligence capabilities, be they agentic-based or machine learning algorithms. The key is I'm taking advantage of the latest and greatest technology to go faster and do more in my business and facilitate my end users that much more effectively and efficiently. The primary case that we see today is where technologists are adding what we call not a blocking style, but an add-on style. So I'm adding in a new service or experience to my existing application workload. That's perhaps a chatbot that helps the end user interact with the application. If they have a question or answer that they want to get addressed from the data set that's inside the application, they can do so by asking a English-based text question and get a response. But at the end of it, they can still conduct the business of the application. If there's an error or an unresponsiveness to the generative AI component of the application, that's okay. The customer can still do what they came to do. The other conversation that I mentioned a moment ago called a blocking style, where customers and industries are adding in generative AI capabilities to check for false information that's coming in the application or fraud details. And in those circumstances, well, now I've injected a microservice that is generating content, but it's part of the overall workflow of the job to be done in the given application. Now, when that circumstance becomes, in terms of the response, be it toxic or hallucinatory or biased or just wrong, from the end user who's interfacing with that application, the application is down.
Yeah, correct.
To give a silly example, if I'm a flight reservation system and I have an application for booking a flight, say from Madrid to London, and I get a response back from booking a flight, and suddenly I get a recipe for a banana blueberry pie.
Which happens?
Regardless of what that might sound delicious, the question of the user says, well, why did I get a recipe for food when I'm trying to book a flight? And I've got to question whether or not I even need to conduct my business with that company. I'll go with a different company to book my flight because this is so erroneous.
Yeah.
What else is wrong? So what we're seeing in this era is not just latency, responsiveness, throughputs, and errors as a golden signal, but an emergence of accuracy as a fifth golden signal into the representation of, is a application healthy, performant, and responsive? Is the content itself accurate from the end user's perspective?
And how does that happen? Is that the user's responsibility, or
No.
that's how would a observability platform gauge that, or these signals, and what kind of signal would it be?
There are several different areas that we're seeing in terms of how to approach it. One of them is to evaluate the prompts, the inputs that the user of the application are providing to the application and the responses that we're getting back. So being able first to evaluate what is those answers back. Are there good quality responses that are provided? Are they hallucinatory? Are they toxic?
Yeah.
Is there bias in the actual responses? And then gauging those from an overall perspective of, is the application providing that information that the user is expecting? Or are there things that we need to get and raise alerts to the operations teams and the AI engineers that are participating in that conversation to say, I need to retrain my model, I need to improve what I'm doing, or maybe I need to rethink which particular model I'm using altogether in terms of providing the value that my customers are expecting from my given application.
Because I'm thinking with traditional, or with the workloads, the AI, so-called AI workloads, you're still going to use metrics, logs, and traces.
Yes.
But this is an additional signal, as you said, and I'm wondering though, I mean, in some respects, you're looking at observability of observability in the sense of where you have the AI from the LLM giving you solutions, but then you have to have another signal or another way of verifying these solutions to make sure they're not a hallucination or erroneous or causing problems.
Correct. Metrics, events, logs, telemetry data are still critical to understand the overall health and performance of the application, but in the case of adding artificial intelligence workloads into the application ecosystem, now you've got a technology that is generating content that's never been generated before. That's when accuracy comes in my opinion, as a fifth golden signal into this conversation. Frankly, accuracy has always been there, but if you think about it, because the end user interacts with the application, they provide a fact.
It's linear.
They get a fact, and that's it.
Yeah.
Sure, there might be a couple of things where maybe a person's name is spelled incorrectly, but those are error edge cases. The primary circumstance is facts go in, facts come out, job is complete on the application. But now I have a portion of the application that is generating content that has never been generated before. So it's more than just understanding, is the microservice that represents the AI component of the ecosystem responsive, latent, is there the right throughput, and is there any errors in the actual construct of the microservice itself as an entity, but it's also now inspecting what's going into those AI workloads. How is the model processing that information, and what's coming back to the end user through that overall application workflow. And for that, you have to, in addition to metrics, events, and logs, and telemetry data, you have to understand the level of accuracy information about what those prompts are provided, and whether or not those prompts, from the end user's point of view, is satisfactory for what the job to be done that the application user is trying to interface with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, an application user doesn't care if an individual microservice is down or an application is down. They care when they can't perform the job they want to do or need to do for your business.
That brings me to another part of the discussion where the challenges are manifold. I mean, we're talking about AI still, but there's still definitely an overlap with observability practices of today. And what are you have all these false positives, in the day-to-day, it's enormously difficult, at least for me, to parse through metrics, logs, and traces, even in an event of a problem. You might see spikes, for example, in latency, or et cetera, et cetera. But what can you characterize, these main challenges that are going on from the user's perspective?
Absolutely. The keys that we look at from an observability perspective is first understanding at the speed in which the business is changing and the interaction speeds in which the users are interacting with the application. You have to collect everything.
Okay.
And what do I mean by everything?
Yeah,
I mean by collecting the metrics, events, logs, and telemetry data at per second speed and capture 100% of the telemetry data that's happening from the end user to the application throughout the entire application ecosystem and back. Why? There are, as we're at KubeCon today, seeing a continuously increasing quantity of parts of those applications that are taking advantage of the latest and greatest technologies.
Yeah.
And that's not just replacing the entire application, that's adding additional microservices or adding additional cloud-native technologies to the existing way the business performs the tasks that it needs to do. Well, what ends up happening is you end up with a combined set of technology in an application that is heritage technology along with cloud-native technology in the same application. And so in those circumstances, you have entities that might never have any type of change or maybe on a quarterly or monthly basis. You might also have instances of elements that will have their elements constructed, the task performed, and their elements deconstructed, never to exist again in the time it takes me to finish this sentence. And in those circumstances, if you're not collecting the data about what the application is doing at per second granularity and at 100% capture, you end up missing a life cycle, 2, 3, multiple of what was actually occurring inside the application ecosystem. You'll miss those peaks and valleys that give you those key signals about something that is erroneous or anomalous in nature because you're polling or you're doing a derivative or sampling and then you miss those particular circumstances. Then it becomes the proverbial white rabbit to chase in ops because you don't have a good quality foundation of the information that actually took place.
Yeah, I shudder thinking about that. But what is you mentioned collecting data.
Yes.
Telemetry data, but the main question though is what is the cost? And I'm seeing a lot of interest in observability platforms that are filtering the data, the telemetry data.
Yes.
So just to reduce the cost and not necessarily importing or the ingress doesn't completely cover all data. It's limiting that, especially for cost reasons. And as you know,
yes,
it's very pricey for most many users.
Yes, it is.
Probably most. So how do you collect all the data, like you said, and without having to pay the enormous cost associated with that?
One of the approaches that we take from an observability perspective at IBM is to understand you should not have to be forced to turn a blind eye into your operations ecosystem because the observability price is too expensive. Okay. You're in the business of making money. You have a quantity of applications that are facilitating what your business is trying to do. It should not be a judgment call to say, I can only afford certain observability levels for certain parts of my business.
Fair enough, yes.
Especially
Absolutely.
in circumstances today where all it takes is a smart business leader and a site reliability engineer or a data scientist to say, hey, I have a great idea. Let's take these particular individual applications and make an additional set of solutions and combine a new value that were these two individual applications together. And that afternoon, now you have a brand new application that absolutely no one knew about, but they were treated as two distinct things. If one of those was not under the level of observability to find out what's going on and why systems are behaving the way that they're behaving, now operations is in the dark on what is a brand new and potentially critical area because the business made that decision to create that value for a reason, make more money.
Yeah.
So it's a key conversation. We see you need the entire set of use cases, regardless of the number of users and regardless of the number of use cases of the job to be done as an observability product. This should not be, it's another $1 here or $5 here, or you have a large quantity of RAM and a certain host, it's an extra amount of money, and it ends up becoming 10, 12% of your annual recurring revenue in terms of the bill.
Or more.
It's an area that requires a reanalysis and the right technology and the right partner to be able to help you succeed at the level of granularity and intelligence and understanding that you need in operations to figure that most important question out on observability. Why? Why are systems exhibiting the behaviors they're exhibiting?
So the solution then should not be exorbitantly expensive. That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
But how do you gauge that? I mean, again, in practice, it's very, you're paying often a bill with the cloud providers for the ingress or the ingesting the data, and then you're paying the bill with, for a cloud provider for the observability platform. So it's a problem as you just described, and if I understand correctly, then when you go into this with a particular platform, then you must have a reassurance that you're not going to get, for proper observability, you're not going to get a bill that's 10% of your annual revenue, for example.
Correct. You want to know what the price is going to be before you get into it, as opposed to, well, I really want to take advantage of this new use case or feature, but I got to look at the menu and realize what that budget, and then I have to open up a spreadsheet to try to do the math formula of what the bill is going to potentially look like.
Yeah.
No, the option is to look at that and understand it up front, and regardless of the additional use cases and definitions of what we have to do as an observability product, to have that understanding to our customers before they begin that new use case. That's one of our keys.
And the other part of observability today, as I see it, is that, again, it's difficult, and you have to not be an expert in observability to understand what you're seeing and especially the actions to take. But you're seeing interest in people with not a technical know-how or knowledge that should be able to interpret the data and make decisions based on what they're seeing from observability. So how's that evolving? And I mean, how far away are we away from the business stakeholder who can come in and say, oh, that's the problem, and then initiate a fix, for example. For something major. Say an application crashes completely and you have 10,000 users that can't use your application, for example. So that is something that I hear a lot about, but still, it remains hard. It's difficult.
Yes. It's a combination of several different things, Bruce.
Yeah.
We see a mixture of culture and tools and process all combined into this conversation. Part of it is you want to make sure the skilled engineers and operations owners are interfacing with the truth of what's going on in the environment with the right level of analytics, so they're not having to sift through all of the data. They're provided the insights based on what the analytics are present in the observability tool. Sure, you can go look in the flame graph and see the particular transaction calls that are made on a particular application end user's singular transaction, and that's always valuable, getting down to the lines of code analysis to see what actually took place and why a particular transaction was anomalous or erroneous in perspective. At the same time, our point of view is a business leader should never need to get to that level of specificity and granularity. They're going to trust the smart people to look at the insights that are coming from an analytic engine of giving you the headlines. These are the things that you need to pay attention to as an operations leader. Where we see the business leader then saying is, it's great that I can rely on an observability tool to trust that my operations teams are looking at the right things, the right errors, the right circumstances, and dealing with the right impact that I have to my business. But I don't think of my business as one application or 8 microservices. I think of it as a service that I provide to my end users. And I want to know, is my service healthy, performance from the end user's perspective? And if there is a problem, are my operations teams not working with their intellectual property between their ears, a judgment call of their fiefdom, or they think this particular area is more important? No, they're working on particular issues, be it P3s or P2s, in the context of the relative impact that circumstance has to the overall business.
Yes.
That's
okay.
what I want to see as a business leader is, are my people that are really smart and really good at what they're doing, are they working on the things that are the most significant or most important in the way that I run my business? And then is the observability solution
Up to par.
giving me the insight that I need and showcasing that to say, or even self-prioritizing those issues or incidents based on relative impact that the circumstances have to the overall business. That's what I want to see as a business leader.
That would be a home run,
Yes.
and I wish you luck.
Well, we're excited. There are several approaches that we're doing to be able to first let business leaders declare, this is my representation of the way I do things.
Yes.
Usually that follows the sun, be it through a season or an hour of the day or a week of the year kinds of characteristics, and then being able to aggregate that information so that I can see that perspective.
Yeah.
And then as a return on that investment that you're making into an observability tool, have the observability tool itself automatically prioritize or deprioritize the issues or incidents that are under investigation based on the relative impact that the circumstance has to the business. So we're excited to go on and continue on this journey in observability.
Yeah, in your case, you just achieved the Magic Quadrant status, I believe, Gartner.
This year, Gartner recognized us as in the Leaders Quadrant as an observability platform in IBM Instana, so we're really excited for that recognition.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you very much.
So this is B. Cameron Gain at KubeCon plus CloudNativeCon in Atlanta, beautiful Atlanta, I must add. Signing off with Jacob Yackenovich, and thank you very much for joining us, Jacob.
Thank you for the time today.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.